Welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, Philadelphia's #1 real estate podcast and a Direct Subs production. Real estate investing is not rocket science, and on our show, we'll delve into best practices with a focus on the small things that add up over time. Please enjoy the authentic, informative, and actionable show with our host, Paul Jagelski.
Hello and welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, a podcast dedicated to exploring the world of real estate investing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started in the industry, this show is for you. Join us as we dive into the latest trends and insights in the Philadelphia real estate market and hear from expert guests who share their knowledge and expertise with investing in this dynamic city. This show is brought to you by Direct Subs. Please check them out at directsubs.com, focusing on building connections for investors and contractors throughout the greater Philadelphia area. The Atomic Real Estate Show is your go-to resource for all things real estate in Philadelphia. I'm Paul Jagelski, your host. Now sit back, relax, and let's explore the world of atomic real estate together. Today, we are bringing you our guest, Brett Madsen from Philly Permit, or Permit Philly. Sorry, my apologies. Welcome, Brett. I appreciate you for taking the time out of it. I know this is a really busy time of the year for you guys. But yeah, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. My name is Brett Madsen. I am the owner of Permit Philly. But if you can find it by Googling Philly Permit, that works for me too. We have a small company that's dedicated to getting building permits, zoning permits, health department approvals, rental licenses, really any kind of city approval in Philadelphia as quickly and easily as possible. We also do some work in the collar counties, although our focus really is within Philadelphia, the city, which is the county in this case.
And whoa, what a boy world you get to run through with that one.
It's a wild one.
Yeah. So if anybody out there hasn't been through the process yet, I do suggest either getting a professional to help you do it for the first time, at least, if not the second, third, fourth, and 100th time. I was unfortunate to try and take it on myself, and ever since then, my head has been spinning. But I did make it a goal of mine to kind of understand it a little bit better. But yeah, walk us through just a little bit of what Philly requires from somebody just starting off.
Well, what kind
of project?
Yeah, let's start with the project because it could be different directions.
Real simple. Rental license, since you mentioned it.
Rental license. So rental license can be really simple or it can be very complicated, like a lot of these things. Philadelphia wants you to have your ID in order and to have several accounts registered with the city for payment of taxes, for doing business in the city so that they can track you, so they can keep you in their databases, make sure that you're paying your taxes when they ask you at the end of the year. That's the primary goal. And also so that they can track one person moving through their system or one business entity moving through their system. If you have that in order and the property that you own is properly zoned, then it's fine. You just apply for a rental license. And where we almost always come in is when someone says, hey, I tried to apply, but they're saying it's not properly zoned, but I have a zoning permit. But then they said I needed some other thing. I don't understand what that is. And then also, apparently I don't have a tax ID, even though here's a piece of paper saying I have a tax ID. Help. And so that's where we start going to work.
Oh, I'm laughing over here, dude, because this was literally like the first year of my life in real estate.
Yeah. They if you have everything formatted the way they like and all your IDs are current, then it is not that difficult. But it's hard to get all the IDs they want, and they changed over the revenue system and the L&I system in the last 3 years since the pandemic. So if you have older IDs, they may not show up in the system, or they might show up in the wrong place. So that's why you often have to either apply for something new or track down the old identifier and then link it to a new identifier.
Yeah. I had that problem.
Yeah. No, they don't. I don't. So revenues. So if nobody's been down in the back of revenue, as far as I know, they're still on a kind of DOS-like system. So it's a command line. So if any kind of like younger listener to the show is not going to have any idea what I mean by that, but like a green screen, it looks like, I mean, the Matrix. It's what you used before the graphic point and click interface for computers. So they actually have to type command lines, like lines of code, just to get the computer to do something, and that's what revenue runs on these computers from the 80s. They have a new website that translates all that mush, and it is a lot better than what they had even 2 years ago. So the website is much nicer, but it wants you to have a different ID format than the old ID format. Why they made that change, I have no idea. But yeah, so that's the problem, is that the old machines and the old software don't like to talk to the new software. And none of that is directly linked to the permitting and licensing system. So that's why you need the two different identifiers. So yeah, it's just years and years of it's not the fault of like the people that you work with at the front desk of revenue or licenses and inspections. These are like strategic decisions that were made years ago. I don't even know by whom. The people making them might not even be working in city government anymore, but we're still suffering.
Yeah, what you just said actually shined a lot of light onto one of my issues, which was they were asking for paperwork that is literally on their website, and all I had to do was go to their website, download it in a PDF form, and then put it into it. But now it makes sense because their computer can't communicate with their own website, so it can't pull that document. They physically need me to go get that document for them.
Yeah, it's either that or the whatever service or software that the people who process the permits see. It often doesn't interact with anybody else's, so that's a little vague. What I mean is the people working on the permits at L&I, they can see the permits and the licenses for the properties, but they can't see the say tax abatement information at the Office of Property Assessment, and they can't see the revenue records. There's not one cohesive system where they can all see the same stuff. So there's the public website, and then there's these back ends which are not all linked together. So sometimes they at L&I will want you to just print something from somebody else's public website. So they'll often ask for, say, the property assessment summary page from the OPA, and you just have to give that to them in either hard copy or a scanned PDF or print out. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Well, good for you for figuring it out. Because as I say, it took me some time. I wish I even knew that there were professionals out there that helped you with this when I was going through.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely took me time when I was starting. I just now, when they tweak something, I usually fall on my face, but I know now, well, I've got everything else right. And so if I just fix this one thing and then I make a note of it, and then the next time we do it like that until the process changes again in the future.
Nope. So what would you say is like, are you able to get faster communication with them being an actual entity that works with them a lot versus, say, myself, a common person who's just going through the public website?
It depends. So the thing that people always want us to be able to do is to speed up the review times. We can't do that. They just won't speed it up. There's somebody who's so well politically connected or so well liked that they can do that, but I'm not really aware of it. The things that make the permitting system really difficult are things like the databases not talking to each other, and the number of different requirements that are very difficult to parse for all different kinds of permit applications. The review times are actually faster than most municipalities around Philly. Like usually you're waiting 3 to 4 weeks. Philly, if you pay an acceleration fee, which is quite a bit for a small project, but for a big multifamily building or mixed use, is really not that much. It's $2,000. So if you have, yeah. So if you have something that's, if you're only doing $10,000 worth of work, you don't want that. But if you are doing, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars worth of work, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And they will review it in a week, and they hold to that. They've gotten better at that since I've started doing this. They tend to get it done in a week. So the review times are not the problem, and we can't fix that. What we can fix is, and where we can sometimes talk to people a little quicker, is when something goes wrong, when we submit something and the examiner says, hey, this is formatted incorrectly. Anybody who applies can get in touch with them. It's not like it's impossible, but because they know a few of the people who work at the office personally, and because they see the company a lot, and because we format the questions in the way that they're used to thinking of them.
Yep.
So we'll use the terminology of L&I to talk about L&I's permits. We can sometimes get faster responses there. And then every now and again, I know who the higher ups at L&I are, and I don't know how aware they are that I exist, but I'll email them occasionally, and if it's something somebody else can handle, I will not hear a response to that email. But every now and again, there's something where I know that there's a code bulletin that says, hey, I'm doing this the right way, but the staff at the intake desk is using the like last year's bulletin, say, the old procedure. And so every once in a while, I can get something through that other people might not be able to by contacting the higher ups and saying, okay, I know you usually don't want to hear from me. I know usually I should talk to somebody at the front desk, but in this case, I'm pretty sure that the front desk is wrong. Can you check into this? And they'll help me out.
But that's awesome. I mean, it's not like you're going there violently, or you're using their language to communicate with them, their preferred way at the same time. So to me, I mean, that's just great business sense. That's the connections you built over the time. That's your ability to adapt into the situation over the time. And you just found your way into, you got a little extra step ahead of somebody else. It had great advantage out of it.
Well, I'd have to see if the supervisors that I know down at L&I think I have great business sense. But they've slowly coached me up so that over the years, I now know when it's a question worth asking, and when I'll just be wasting their time or annoying them, and just either wait till later or find someone else to talk to.
Dude, you just said like a perfect phrase. They coached you up. Like you actually listened to them rather than just trying to combat them. No, you actually took the time to listen to them, and that's why they're taking the time to listen to you. That's awesome. That's really
that
cool.
is something that, whether or not you're using our service, if you're doing anything with the city of Philadelphia, definitely listen to what the people are saying. It's very frustrating. I still occasionally lose my patience, not with the people, just with the process. It can still drive you nuts when you think you've got everything right, and it's just not the way it's supposed to be, and you have to come back later. But for the most part, it is a bad system, and there are a few people who maybe don't want to work as hard as the rest of the people, but there are a lot of employees who are trying really hard, know a ton about this weird, wacky system that is not their fault. It runs this way. If you just sit and listen to them, they'll help you out. They'll tell you what's going on and how to get through it.
Yeah, I will say since COVID has come, I don't know exactly what has gone on down there, but they have become much more efficient. They've been, I don't know, friendly is the right word, but they are much more able to listen and give more than just denied responses. Like they're actually telling you, hey, we need X, Y, and Z. You can find it here. Here's the link for this, which I appreciate. As a little person who navigated it for a long time, and again, did not realize that there's people out there to help you to do this. I got, I would resubmit and not really understand what I was resubmitting. And they were getting frustrated with me. But since COVID has come, as I say, I've gotten people on the line now and been able to talk to them. They'll respond to questions that I put on there. So they have improved. I agree with you. It's not the people. It is 100% their processes and systems that they have, unfortunately, in place. But hey, they're just like all of us. They got to do a job, and
it's just work. There are a few people who have it's a weird experience to talk to somebody who knows so many, like hundreds, maybe thousands of different types of permutations of all these permits, just different combinations of requirements that you might need in a weird circumstance, just off the top of their head. And I'm always like, you should be. I don't know what this skill is exactly, but I feel like you should. They should probably pay you more. There are a few employees in the city where I'm like, you know everything. This is incredible.
And then they just literally like reach over and they're like, this is the form here. You want section B, C, and D, skip A. And they're like, but what? There's
like A is a trap. Don't mess with A. Yeah.
No, it's great out of it. But tell me about one of your recent projects or current projects that you got going on right now that's a little bit more complicated than you expected it to be.
Well, I'm going to stick on rental licenses because I had one that was, an absolute terror. Back to the beginning of the discussion. I said that if you have all your IDs in order and the proper zoning, not so hard. Well, in this case, we had a rental license that was for the 2 units, but the 3rd unit was one that the owner lived in. And Philly has a type of permit for that now, but they didn't, or it wasn't properly signed up for at the time of the rental license creation. So it's the wrong type of thing. And as far as L&I is concerned, this means that this property is 2 units. So I have to. So at that point, it's in a single family zoning district. So because it's 2 units, the only way to get it to be able to sell it, which the owner eventually wants to do for 3 units legally, is to get a new rental license saying, "Hey, this is 3 units. This has been 3 units the whole time," because your zoning permit is very, very old. I think it was from 1938. I forget. I had 2 old ones recently. This was either like 52 or 38. Fortunately, they had a copy of it online. The city had a copy, so I could access it. If that had been lost in a box somewhere, there's no way I would have been able to find it. Yeah. So I knew that it had been consistently a triplex for decades and decades and decades. So I knew that eventually we'd be able to get this. But it's to get it to get approval for the 3 unit when all the recent documents paint a picture of it as a 2 unit. There are forms to fill out, but it's also you just have to make an argument and you have to make it to the right people. I got rejected for that one so many times until I slowly. There are also other contributing factors, like even when I would talk with somebody who understood what I was trying to do and saw the code bulletin that outlines the process for legalizing ancient zoning permits from the time before the city even had certificates of occupancy. Even when they would understand what I was after, they would point out, well, but actually he doesn't have anything current for the lead safety on this one. So I had to come back to the owner. I'm like, remember how I said I think I can get this at the end of the week? Well, now you have to pay more money for somebody to come out and do the lead safe assessment. He's like, I did that already. I'm like, yeah, for a 2 unit. You now need to do it for a 3 unit. It was just really painful, but we eventually got through. Rejected again and again and again, and this is that one I enjoyed in the end, although I don't think the client loved it as much as I did, because it was something that they really needed us to do. We weren't just saving time. Most other people who attempted that just wouldn't be able to, not because our company is so much smarter or more capable, just because we've done the work and we know that system really well. And I knew who to talk to when I kept getting rejections because the rules were clear. They just weren't. You just didn't have to apply them very often because it's such an unusual circumstance.
That's crazy.
I
can't believe you found records that far back.
Well, that was actually the easy part. They're just if you go in the zoning record, it was I think the first permit they had up, so they have a scanned PDF of that one. So it's just that was online. That was from my office. That was easy.
Was this in South Philly, North Philly?
I forget. Hang on. Let me think about this. This is gonna be northwest. So
Ooh.
that's the other funny thing is that I don't end up always even knowing what region I'm working in, because you just see addresses and paperwork. We're not actually doing construction, so every now and again a client will want us to come out to the site just to kind of feel us out, meet in person, that sort of thing. And we'll do that every so often if we're not too busy. But yeah, for the most part, it's the location that we go to is any number of city offices, and otherwise we're on our computers clacking away.
That's awesome. That's so cool, dude. I trust me, again, with those headaches, I can only imagine your client's thrilledness to actually be done with it, though, because as you say, he may not have been like overall thrilled with how long it quote unquote took or how hard the process was, but I can tell you from experience, most people would have given up probably the third or fourth rejection once they realized just how hard it is. My brother-in-law went through a rezoning of a duplex to a triplex, and it is not easy with meters, with everything. It did not.
Yeah.
He had to end up eventually getting lawyers involved. But yeah,
Yeah, so that was the thing that I was trying to avoid. Is I don't know your brother or brother-in-law. Sorry,
brother-in-law, yeah,
brother-in-law. I don't know your brother-in-law's circumstance exactly, but it sounds like he might have had to go through the variance process.
Yep.
Yeah, which is when you have to ask the zoning board to let you do something that's illegal. Hey, this is against the law, but I still want to. Is sort of how it works. And that they're so backed up right now after the flood of permits at the end of 2021 that it's now like a 9-month process.
Yeah.
So that's what, with this rental license thing, that's what I was trying to avoid. I didn't doubt that my client could get a variance. I just knew that it was going to add so many months to the project and cost a lot, because if he wasn't planning to live there anymore, then he would need an attorney. The zoning board only lets homeowners who actually live at the property appeal in person. Otherwise, you have to have a lawyer represent you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They make some things fun. They make other things interesting, and some things I just bang my head against the table for.
Yeah, and so that one, the zoning board is no one's ever happy with them. Homeowners aren't happy with them because they want to do something simple. Often that matches what their neighbors are doing, and they're suddenly not allowed, and they have to spend all this money and go through this process, which is wild. And then other neighbors who aren't doing any work are always mad because there's something that is technically illegal, so technically bigger or with more units than strictly allowed by the zoning code. And so they're upset because they feel like they're getting special treatment. So that's one where it's a to me at least a pretty clear system problem. Like, you should not have a zoning code that's so strict that you have this many zoning variances requested. And more zoning variances should just be kind of kicked out before any sort of review. Like, if someone says, hey, I have this really terrible hardship, then that's one thing. But it has really become a way to just zone. The zoning code almost functions at this point, which is not how it's written, but it's almost like a set of rules that show you the minimum that you can do. And then if you can make a decent argument for why it would make more sense to do it a different way, or if you're a homeowner, if you can show that, hey, my neighbors have been doing this or something, then you'll often just get through. They back in like 2017, 18, they were, I think it was the Inquirer or Billy Penn, looked at all of the decisions and found that 90% of them were approved. Yeah, so it's all this long process for approval in 9 out of 10 cases.
So it's just a money grab.
I don't think so, actually. I don't know for sure, but so it's possible that money's changing hands somewhere along the lines. We don't do that other than people paying us for our service.
Well, yeah, right. But it keeps companies in business out of it. That's
it could, but I think it's also like the city trying to do a bunch of contradictory things. They're trying to respond to the neighbors' desires for a really strict zoning code, and then also allow development that helps the city grow, and expands the tax base and gives jobs to construction workers. So they want all that, but then they also want to keep all their constituents happy, and that's where you get these conflicting. The law says
All
no, but the zoning process says maybe.
And then 90% yes.
Yeah, I do think that has fallen. I don't have the numbers to back it up, but just anecdotally, I think they are starting to reject more of them. But that also means less development, so that's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know specifically in the area that I concentrate, Manioc, Roxborough, that's been the big debate in that for public versus development right now. Just they changed all the zonings, all the variances, and everything else that they could real fast. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go over the next couple of years out of it. But what do you see as like the most common challenge for just a typical property owner trying to get a zoning permit?
Oh man, I think okay, if you're just a property owner and you need a zoning permit, it is hard to figure out whether or not you need plans and then what's an acceptable level of plans.
Right.
So people will often throw in they hand drew something and they'll submit it and say, there, it's just a little sketch I'm putting on a deck or something. And it might turn out that you need a structural engineer for that deck, depending on where it's located and how much weight it's supposed to bear. You might also need a zoning variance for it because there are a lot of rules about where decks can go.
Decks and sheds, I'm finding out, have a lot of different little restrictions.
For sheds, you want to keep it 3 feet away from all property lines, and you want to make sure that it is no bigger than 216 square feet. And then it should be good. You either need a easy building permit or no building permit. I'd have to check the regulations to remember. But it goes, 216 square feet, you're in great shape. 217 square feet, oh man, it's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, I found that one out. And 216 square feet isn't as big as you would think it is once you actually start constructing.
Nope. Nice and tiny. Yeah. They're trying to allow people to throw like a prefabricated shed up there, but then everything else they're like, well, that's building now. So
yeah. I tried to put, as I say, a little shed in my back property and then looked into the permits. I was like, yep, nope, not worth it. I will haul it all around in my truck. That's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Oh man, what about the big guys, the developers? What is their big common problem that they find when they go towards our board?
Do you mean the zoning board specifically, or just any kind of
zoning board specifically?
Yeah, for them, I think it's they've got to play a little politics, meaning that they have to present a case for why their development that requires a zoning variance will be good for the city. Because if you're a larger developer, even if you're local, there's going to be a lot of opposition to whatever you do. There's always in all neighborhoods across the country. This isn't just a Philly thing. There is vocal opposition to any change. Yep. And if you find out that change is technically illegal under the zoning code, well, then you'll get maybe a minority of people, but enough people in the area to come around and say, hey, why are we changing the rules just for this development? So for a larger development, you want to make the case that you are providing something that the city needs. You're either going to get them some good tax dollars if you're say you want to do luxury condos. That's something that will immediately draw opposition because the city's suffering a general housing crisis. So people will say, wait, why do we need this when we could have affordable housing? So you need to make the argument, hey, the reason that we should have this is that, which I happen to believe in, but you have to persuasively make the argument that these luxury condos will bring in people who have some cash, they're new, they're not grandfathered in, they're not eligible for the loop or anything else, and they will have to pay full freight to live here in their property taxes, and this will generate a lot of property taxes for the city, so it'll make our services better. So that's it. That's an easy sell for me. For a lot of people, that's a hard sell, but that's the sort of thing the sort of argument you have to make to pass the zoning board if you're a developer.
Is that something that you would help a client with, is putting together that kind of package, that kind of a message?
I would talk with them about that, but they're going to need an attorney. So
Okay.
by rule, and I think it's a Pennsylvania rule that companies have to be represented in any procedural matter by an attorney. So sometimes I'll talk with the attorney and bounce ideas off of them, but the attorney has final say in that case.
Okay. Now, when you guys are providing services, I'm assuming you'd have to sit down with somebody first and really kind of talk it out, figure out what they're trying to do before you even get into what permits they may or may not need, because as we said, it can get quite extensive of what kind of permits they need. But walk me through that, like that initial consultation. Like, what are you really trying to figure out with your client, where they're going and all that kind of good stuff with it?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a lot of that goes through Jess, who answers our phones. So shout out to Jess if she ever listens to this. She takes a lot of the phone calls, answers a lot of leads, emails. The contact form on our website usually goes by her. So her job is just to figure out as fast as possible, because she gets a lot of these during a given week. Is this a large enough project that I need to send this to Brett or Miad, who's one of our other permit expeditors, or can I quickly give this person an explanation of what they're likely to need? So like diagnosing the problem, diagnosing the provided permits is the first and biggest step. So before there's even a consultation, we see what they've written us or voicemail they left or take notes on their call and try to figure out, okay, what do we think we can do here? And often we do need more information. We have to go back, call them back again, say, hey, what about this? Okay, you say you want to build an addition. Where's the addition going to go? Because, I know what permits you need for an addition, but if you build the addition too far out, you might need a zoning variance. If you build the addition a certain way, it might run afoul of the building code. So tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to do. And then once we have it helps to have plans, but most homeowners or smaller developers won't have them ready at the time. So we go off the description. We try to sort it out. We look at the maps, the aerial views, to see what's legal, what's required, and compare that to what the lead is planning. And usually at that point we can say, okay, we think it's going to be these permits. We charge this amount for these permits. We got a matrix, a giant Excel sheet for,
Yeah.
All right, if your project is this size and you need this permit, we charge that much for this permit. And so then we'll give you a quote. And if it sounds all right, sometimes there's a little bit of back and forth, but if it sounds all right, then we shoot out a proposal and get started on collecting documents and advising on how to arrange the permits, how to order them. So apply for this one first. Oh, wait, you need to start construction on this date? Okay, we're going to have to apply for this one first. Then we're going to have to amend it later to allow you to continue construction with this other design that's not ready yet. But your structural engineer needs to make sure that they put the structure in place, show a structure that can handle the weight of the other modifications you want to make later.
Did you steal Jess from LNI? Is that how she
No, Jess applied for the job. She was so I started out doing this on my own. There are a lot of permanent expeditors in the city, and this was before Eclipse, the online system, which which everybody hates, but I'm telling you, it's better than the alternative, which was I had a very good relationship with the local printer. I would go down to their office, get a roll or two, throw one under each arm, and go to LNI. You could only apply for 3 at a time. If you were wrong about anything, missed a signature, had the wrong, then you had to take your giant roll of paper back to wherever, an office. I got a co-working space nearby. So yeah, that was really tough, and it also put a really tight cap on how many permits that I could apply for in a day. Like maybe I could do 6 if they were simple, if I could physically carry them across town. But otherwise, I would need 3 was usually my cap for a day. Especially you had to go in person to the water department, to the streets department, to the city planning commission to get them to stamp it. So even though Eclipse is not easy, and since Eclipse rolled out, they have added a bunch of new regulations and requirements for a number of different permits. So the permitting process is harder. it does mean that we can process far more permits in a day than we used to. Like if someone gets us something and says, hey, this is rush job, I'm willing to pay extra, we can probably get that in and start the review timer that day, where before it'll be, okay, I am booked up for tomorrow. I think I have a slot where I can send this to the printers, pick it up, walk it over 2 days from now.
Yeah, Eclipse. I just don't understand why they can't make it like a college educational course. You know, like you got all the little things on the side and you got to go through each one of them before you can get to the next task, and you can't hit submit.
Yeah,
each
yeah.
one of them done.
Yeah, I don't. I part of it is so complicated. There are so many different regulations that it is difficult to simplify. And then the other part is that they just went with this. Eclipse rolled out for permits for licenses, like rental licenses, food licenses, before permits, and it wasn't great then. And I just remember being shocked when I found out that they were going to make the license software, which nobody liked and was hard to navigate, and looked like something from the internet in 1999, 2000, like around that time. They were going to make that the permitting portal. I thought, okay, maybe they'll spruce it up, add some more graphics. Maybe they need to keep the database. And nope, it still looks like a bunch of like hypertext links mostly. Yep. So
I will say, on the flip side of that, I found your website to be very informative on the resources page.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you take some time to describe each one of them. You put the links right there for people to be able to click on and go over to it. So I'll tell you, over the last couple of days and weeks since we first started, I actually got lost on your website looking at those resources because it explained it a heck of a lot better than what any of the Philadelphia real resources do.
Oh, I'm glad. Okay.
So that was really cool. I appreciate you having that up there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I do have the advantage of not having to explain every last rule, where the Philly resources are trying to keep it simple, but then also explain all the rules. So it starts off with a summary that's like, this is not going to be that hard. Relax, citizen of Philadelphia. And then you get into it and it's like, okay, now you need to first enter the cave where the dragon lives. Do not wake the dragon. Sneak past him. That is your first test. Like, okay,
you can do that.
Yeah, if you can do that, you get to go to the water department. You're like, all right.
Yeah, and then you got to be able to get past the dragon on the way out too. Otherwise,
yeah, on the way out, they're like, oh, you got past him on the way in, but not the way out, and so you can't get a permit. Also, you are burned.
Yeah, no, I agree. Eclipse definitely saved a lot of time and efforts, but yeah, it has allowed them to, as you mentioned earlier, lead-based paint. It's allowed them to actually stick to some of these things that they're sticking out on us landlords out there, and really get to it. I mean, I had one rental license that my zip code wasn't up for the lead-based paint. I applied for my renewal. By the time they reviewed my renewal, my zip code had come up for for
the new regulation. Yeah.
I was like, well, I gotta go get a test now. Sweet.
Yeah, there's not really a arm of the so what happens and why I've developed a lot of sympathy for LNI is city council will come up with an idea. Hey, we want our neighborhoods are complaining about this. We want to change a rule. We're worried about health and safety measure like the lead-based paint, which ultimately a good regulation to have to make sure that that's just nowhere near any children and that it's slowly removed from the residences in Philly. But then the way then it goes to LNI and they're like, okay, you have to write up the specific details of the rule. Then you have to create the permitting procedure for the rule. Then you have to train up all your people on it. Then you also have to get the word out, like when this is going into effect. And it's way too much for the number of people they have. It's also a lot of different types of things. Like you can imagine maybe city communication office that just handles summarizing all the regulations in the city for all the departments and putting them out. But LNI's got to do that at the end of just like barely getting through the process of training their own people on how to do the new thing that City Hall told them they had to do. So yeah, it's it's not their fault.
No, I will always be a believer that, hey, the people are doing it's their job. That's what they're there to do.
Yeah.
We can always be kind and courteous like you are, and hey, they'll show us a little respect back out of it. Because yeah, I mean, they're just there doing their job, and it is not an easy job. They've got archaic systems. They've got, as you say, city council coming from another end out of it. They've got all of us little homeowners that are so confused and so over the system yelling at them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't blame them. In fact, I give a good shout out to them. They're great people. I would never want to do their job.
Yeah. I hope that it gets better. I hope that they get more. They're trying to hire building inspectors faster. I think there are some things that they could change to make that process a little easier. Trying to hire more plans examiners, engineers throughout. Yeah, hopefully they can, and maybe they can take some of their duties out of that department and put them in other departments, because it's a lot for one office to handle.
Well, instead of asking you a general question on the cost, because that's impossible with Philadelphia, because it's every single different thing makes a cost difference. And as you said, you have a matrix the size of, I'm sure, my back wall over here that actually kind of spells that out for you guys. But instead, any updates that any of us should know about, anything that they've changed recently that would influence homeowners, developers positively or negatively?
The giant change, and this is now 6 months old, but it's still a huge change, is the excavation rules. They have, they put in a new system of permits and plan requirements starting in 2023 for any dig in Philadelphia generally that's below 5 feet. Other than they'll let you do, if you have to do some samples for geotechnical reports, like soils reports, you can do that. That's fine. That can go below 5 feet. And you can dig a utility line. That's fine. That can go below 5 feet. But anything else, anytime you have to, even if you're not underpinning, even if it's not an attached wall, you have to now create, sort of summarize all the data that you'd have to have anyway in the building permit on a special sheet of the plans, on a single sheet. And then you also have to fill out a bunch of new paperwork, and your contractor has to have a license specifically to do excavation in Philadelphia. Yeah. It's really tough.
So 6 foot basements, 2 stories down ain't happening.
They're happening. It's just you have to work with a contractor who's gone through the trouble of doing the in-person training. It's an in-person training.
Oh my God.
It's an OSHA training, and the closest, and it has to be in person, and the closest OSHA office is, I think, in Bluebell. That's off the top of my head, so don't quote me on that. Don't start driving towards Bluebell. But it's somewhere in the greater Philly area, not offered by Philadelphia itself, not offered at City Hall or anything.
And I know contractors love taking a day off of work for training.
Yeah, and the best part is it's usually a weekend training too. So you have to, you get to give up your weekend. But a few have done it. I think we have 30 or 40 by now who have gone through the trouble of actually getting it.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't. I'm not out there on the site, but good for those contractors. Yeah.
You've got the contacts. That's the good part. That's where you come in out of it, the networking.
Yeah, you need to make sure you hire one of those people, or you're willing to do it yourself if you're a contractor. That's the first step. And then, I mean, it's just a complex web. They've really beefed up the requirements for notifying neighbors of any work, because neighbors were complaining about, I'm using neighbors a lot because the local groups that work with the zoning board are called the registered community organizations. Colloquially, I'll just call them the neighbors. So I'm thinking of the RCOs specifically, but in this case, the literal neighbors, the people who would live next door to a new construction, would not know anything about it really until, other than seeing some permit signs up, until the construction started. And I think City Hall got so many complaints about that they said, okay, you have to make new rules. L&I, go. Make new rules that force developers or contractors to let the literal neighbors of the property know whenever any work's done that's an excavation within 10 feet of their home, or underpinning of a party wall, which you had to do anyway, but they just made it much more a much more laborious process.
Great word.
Thanks. And man, what else do you have to? You have to get them to sign now a specific form. You can't just notify them; they have to sign a form. If they don't sign the form, you got to wait 60 days until you can get your permit. So,
knock.
that's what they want. Is they want developers to go in person to all the houses adjoining the construction site and say, hi, I work for this place. We're going to be doing this and that. Do you have any questions about it? And I don't know. I think letting the neighbors know what's about to happen is great. And I think having a very strict inspection system for row homes in Philadelphia, with the soil we have and the nature of old homes and the nature of just party walls, period. Yeah, I think it makes sense to have really strict inspections, but this just seems like a bad idea from City Hall, where they're trying to address the buildings that have been falling over.
Yes.
The way to address that is to hire more inspectors. You need more inspectors to really make sure that the work is being done according to permit and that the work is permitted. And that the contractors have their insurance. They don't have the manpower to do that, so instead they just made it really, really difficult to get one of these permits in the first place. I think that's a solution that they have in mind. So
love politics, my man.
I mean that's my read of it. Maybe the motivation was different, but that's what I think happened. Don't love it, but here we are now telling people, hey, here's the form. How well do you know your neighbors?
I don't know if maybe they have to post a website or something that people can go and look at something like that. But listen, I hate door knockers. I don't care who they work for. I don't care what they're doing. I work from home most of my days. I don't like door knockers whatsoever, and I don't typically answer my doors. So that's not going to work for me if someone's going to come over and, hey, I just want to give you friendly advice. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Especially if they're telling you that they need something from you. You have to sign this form. You're probably just not going to do that.
No.
So that means that even if they don't really have a problem with you building something on the empty lot next to them, you now, because you haven't been able to convince them to sign a form handed to them by a stranger, you now have to wait 60 days to get a permit. So
no, I don't know. As you say, you understand that a lot better. I love the fact that there are people like you out there, because it's a lot. I mean, as you say, every little thing can take a change or recorrection depending upon what you're doing. Is there a counter lever out of there? Are you going? Is the deck? Is it going around the corner? Is it going near the property?
Yeah.
Is it going near the fence? Is it going to be 4 feet off the ground? Is it going to be 1 foot off the ground? Yeah. They don't make it easy. So again, thank you guys and ladies for doing it. Jess seems like I wish I had her organizational skills to just kind of take all that information in at once and be able to spit it out where it needs to go back and forth again. That's pretty cool.
She's got a wild job. She occasionally she'll have to have somebody else take the phones. She's like, there are too many. I can't keep it straight anymore. I don't know which permits we need. I'm like, it's okay. Well,
listen, every day I'd be like, I don't need a lunch break. I just need a Zen break. I need to recenter myself. I need to calm down for a second, write a few things down. Just no phones ringing, no emails pinging.
I often do the opposite. I'm like, Jess, you got it? She's like, what if I have questions? I'm like, I need to fill out like 3 or 4 applications today, and they're pretty complicated. And I've got to look at this giant set of plans and make sure it adheres to the local zoning code and the building code. So you've got this. It's going to be great. You will not be able to contact me for the next 2 hours. Sorry.
So with that, how do you unwind after a stressful week or going into a season like right now?
Right now is actually weird because it's not we don't get busy at the same time contractors get busy. So we had a huge influx of requests for permits, a number of leads, even if they didn't end up using our service, just a ton of people to talk to take notes on. That happened in the spring. So it actually has not been quite as busy since the summer started because now the people who got those permits are building or about to build. But we have weird days where sometimes there won't be anything. We'll be like, is construction still going on in Philadelphia? And then the next day we'll be completely underwater. Just way too many permits for us to deal with. My wife would say that I unwind by coming home after a stressful day, really, really grumpy and just kind of growling and moping around the house. And I slowly unwind by her saying, "Hey, it's going to be okay. Your bad mood makes me sad too. Don't be in a bad mood." So that's one way to unwind.
Coaching. I like it. It's coaching.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah, she puts up with a lot. She does a great job. But the other way, when I'm in a better mood, when I'm already a little more sane, is I like movies. If I've had a bad day, I'll probably want to watch a terrible movie and just yell at it. Got a number of good friends. I like to play music. I trained as a musician before I did this, believe it or not. And so, occasionally just mess around with piano or with the recording software.
Dude, that's awesome. I always have a soft spot for anybody who has any kind of like musical inclination because I have zero. I can't hold a tune. I can't play guitar. I couldn't tell you any key on a piano. I couldn't do the dun dun dun. I can do Jaws. That's about it.
Yeah, Jaws. You can. It's one of the ones that I think everybody's got in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you though, I'm not doing it to the right tune or pitch or whatever that musical note is. I'm doing two different ones.
Yeah. Oh right, yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking out. I'm like, what does he mean by that? I'm like, oh, he's probably not quite at an octave, so he's probably getting. Oh, that's interesting. We're probably getting a bunch of minor ninths there. So yeah, you're engaging that part. The education's coming back in.
Yeah, that part of my brain has never been engaged. So yeah, I love it when dude. Weird story, real quick. I had my ducts cleaned in one of my rental units, and the guy. One of my tenants happens to have a piano out of it. And he's like, I can play that. I was like, no, you can't. And he pulls up a video of him like just playing a piano. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Duct cleaning. Yeah, the piano is just a fun way to unwind. I've never taken lessons. It's just something I do for fun. I'm like, oh my gosh,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So again, anything musical, I'm always really cool about. That part of your brain has never been part of mine. So.
Well, I can kind of relate to the duck guy because I don't usually bring this up because it's not relevant at all to what I do now for my day job. But I actually got a PhD in music composition before doing this. Yeah, so I thought I was going to be a professor at a college, and I ended up falling into this just by accident. So.
Hey, each one of your clients is just another student trying to learn their way through the system.
It's different. The client contractor, the contractor consultant expert relationship is a little different than the teacher student. There's a little more. What have you done for me lately? Instead of teach me your wisdom.
Did you get that actually approved today? No.
Yeah. We are. As frustrating as it can be, we've also been lucky just to have a bunch of returning clients, I should say, instead of just throwing them under the bus, who have been joy to work with. There are a few architecture firms. If any of your clients have worked with core architecture or level 9 architects, we work with them constantly, and it's just always a blast.
That's awesome, dude. You have really set up a cool little like networking system. You've got people in place to do what they do best out of it. You've got your business running well out of it. You're an inspiration out of it, and I love it. And again, you're helping people do something in Philadelphia that I know firsthand is one of the most stressful parts of real estate in Philadelphia, is just dealing with the whole process of L&I from front to beginning. So your services are well needed, and we all thank you greatly for doing that.
For sure.
You mentioned a couple of architect firms. How can people get a hold of you?
Oh, sure. You can find our website with all the contact information listed. So that's permitphilly.com. Philly, like you'd think it would be spelled. Permit, Permit. So Permit Philly. And if you want to give us a ring, again, this is on the website, but you can call us at 267-744-4200, and you'll be able to talk to Jess.
Sweet. Do you guys do Instagram?
Yeah, we do. I think we are just at Permit Philly. Yeah, I don't think there's anything special there. We have a Facebook page as well, but most of that's just reposts from Instagram. So.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, hey, we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. This has been my pleasure by all means. But unfortunately, we are at the end of our episode today. Any last words of wisdom, any kind of advice you want to give anybody before we sign off?
I guess just if I don't think there's a lot of wisdom to give the larger developers. Like, they know it's a complicated process and they price that in. If you're a smaller developer, or if you're like hiring contractors for the first time, just do what L&I wants you to do. The forms are ridiculous and the rules don't always make sense, but the basic goal is to like make a safe building that meets not just local standards, but like national building codes. So it's good stuff that they want you to do. They're trying to get you to make a more energy efficient, safer building. And the way they go about it is not really through L&I's fault, but just the way the city has decided to go about it is it's aggravating, but it is for a good cause. So just like make it safe. Don't cut corners. That's the advice.
Ooh, I like it. Don't cut corners. That's a very good one. Any other than that little quote right there, any other quotes that you run your life by? Business?
Oh, no. I think it's mostly me asking Jess or Miad, what's this project? What's going on with this one again? Oh, I applied for this. Okay. Because after a while, you just see all the addresses over and over, and you have to like hear the story of the project to be reminded of like, what are we doing here? Oh, yeah, no, I remember. And then you'll remember insane details about it. Like, right, there was a footing detail that the examiner didn't like.
You got to have like that ME report where you can just quickly open it, run through it, done.
Yep.
Oh, man. Dude, again, this has been my pleasure. I really do appreciate it. But again, this is unfortunately the end of our episode of the Atomic Real Estate Show. There will be more actual atom-sized bits of information and advice that will be free for the taking on our next episode. So be sure to tune in next week. Thank you again to our listeners, and especially to Brett for taking so much time out of his day and giving us so much insight into the world of L&I and permits in Philadelphia. This has been a Direct Subs production. Check them out at directsubs.com. I look forward to hearing from all of you in our comments, and please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe wherever you choose to listen to the Atomic Real Estate Show. How can you be 1% better today?
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast. Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.